The Sahara group believes the courts are acting as if they're the lawyers on behalf of the Supreme Court. They're accusing the courts of acting in a partisan fashion. They're also saying that no investor has so far complained. How can Sahara Shri, who they think is a great patriot, who patronizes hockey, patronizes cricket, how can he be sent behind bars in this fashion? They believe he's being victimized because of the fact that he's rich. But he also evaded the law for 18 months. And now finally the law catching up with him, and about time. Subrata Dalal joins us on this broadcast, one of India's foremost financial journalists. She's been tracking this case very, very closely. Vikas Singh, one of the best known Supreme Court lawyers, has tracked this case again very, very closely. I want to go across first to Subrata Dalal. Madam, we're seeing people from the Supreme Court, people from the Sahara group, who are saying that action has been taken which is Can you hear me, Subrata Dalal? Give me a moment. I'm going to patch that line through. I want to go across to Vikas Singh first. Mr. Singh, given the fact that Sahara was so far at every available opportunity trying to evade the law, now that the Supreme Court has sent him into judicial custody, it's about time that a lot of people who very strongly feel that Subrata Roy was making a mockery of the law just because of how rich, influential and powerful he is. And it's about time that he have to pay for the sins that he's committed and all the orders that the Supreme Court has passed against him. Mr. Vikas Singh.
Well, Rahul, in order to understand the present controversy, you'll have to go a little back in time. This whole controversy started when SEBI said that it has a right to regulate the investment which Sahara is taking from the common people. Now, that decision went against Sahara before the SEBI, and ultimately the matter travelled to the Supreme Court. And before the Supreme Court, there was no investor in court. No investor was ever called in court. No investor represented, no lawyer represented any of the investors in court. And the only issue which was argued was whether SEBI has a right to regulate or whether it is the ROC which has a right to regulate these investments. Now, if you read the entire judgment of the Supreme Court, the entire judgment is dealing with this legal proposition. The judgment at the last 2 pages somehow turns around and says that money has to go back to SEBI and SEBI has to invest to investors, and within 1 week the documents have to be submitted by Sahara. Now, the last 2 pages suggest as if the Supreme Court was wanting or was feeling that this is a money which has been laundered of politicians and Sahara is basically holding that money. And accordingly, the Supreme Court said that this money is to go to SEBI, and if no investor is coming to the SEBI, then this money will go to the state. Now, if you see the legal position, there is no law under which this money has gone to the state. This kind of an order can be passed only against a person who is, facing preventive detention or a coffee posa detention.
Okay,
order.
We'll build on the strands that you've put out one by one. I want to go across to Subrata Dalal. The primary defense that Subrata Roy Sahara has is that there is no complaint against him. Every investor who's asked for money has been returned that money. Sahara believes this is a case of grave and extreme judicial overreach, and Subrata Roy is being targeted because he's rich, powerful, and the courts want to teach him a lesson over and beyond what the law entails. Subrata Dalal.
Well, he may have his views, but we have to worry about what the country is going to be run like. I mean, can you have one business house which can do whatever it wants to, can raise any amount of money and be completely unregulated? The kind of money that Sahara, we forget about this 20,000 crore that Sahara talks about, which is a part of the 2012 judgment. Do you know that before that it has functioned uniquely, Sahara as well as Peerless, as a residuary non-banking finance company, where it put out ads in the paper which said that it had collected 75,000 crore. And we had the same drama going on in front of the RBI. Years together, they used to pretend to investigate, then they used to give them more time. Then Sahara put out ads saying, okay, we are returning 75,000 crore. For God's sake, this is India, okay? People with less than 1 crore get income tax notices, and their money is impounded, they have to pay penalties. This is what applies to people like us, ordinary people. And this man's 75,000 crore, isn't that bigger than the budgets for maybe education and health care?
No, but there's a point that Vikas Singh made, and I'm on specifics tonight, Subrata Dalal, that there are no complainants against Subrata Roy. every investor who's asked for money has had that money paid back. The question is whether or not the SEBI has overreach, whether or not SEBI has regulatory powers over the sort of business that Sahara runs. Now, should Subrata Roy be sent to jail? Answer that question and then Vikas Singh will counter. Sucheta Dalal.
Excuse me, does it mean that somebody who pretends and has a bunch of fictitious investors, crores of them, will never have a complaint, the source of money will never be known, and you have an incredible judgment of August 2012 of the Supreme Court, which has plugged every single possible escape route and loophole, has said you will not pay. You will pay it to SEBI, it will go into an escrow account, they have named a judge, they have said the process of verification, and from 2012 till 2014, you have this drama going on. Obviously, there are no investors. It's not a question of investors. There should be some accountability of fundraising.
Vikas Singh, Sucheta Dalal answers saying you are asking the wrong question. There are no investors because this is all bogus. The lists are bogus. This is money that's being laundered and those charges need to be investigated, and so far that hasn't been done. So the counter that you're giving is completely at variance with the points that the Supreme Court has been making, is that this is laundered money and therefore it needs to be investigated and Sahara Shri needs to answer. Vikas Singh.
Well, Rahul, I don't know whether Sucheta Dalal has read that judgment or not. There is not a whisper in that judgment that this is laundered money. No, that judgment doesn't whisper about laundered money. That judgment is not dealing with an issue. I can understand.
Money. I have not said laundered money. That is Rahul's word.
Can I? Okay, whether it be laundered money or money brought in through some nefarious means without there being investors. Money coming in without there being investors. That's what you've said. Can I answer that? There is not a whisper in the entire judgment even suggesting that there
one by one. Don't talk over each other. One by one.
Vikas Singh, dealt with that aspect at all. The Sucheta court has not dealt with that aspect at all in the entire judgment. There is not a whisper that this money has come from some others. No, please read the judgment and then say. I was representing some of the investors before the Supreme Court.
Let's talk facts here. Let's talk facts here.
Yes.
Don't keep pretending that the court hasn't said. The court has named an investor and said there is no address.
I don't know.
I mean, are you aware about KYC norms in this country? We are not satisfied with KYC norms in this country. We want biometrics, except when it comes to Sahara.
If you don't want to, hear, then it's a very difficult. Yes, I'm saying that if there was a case that this money is not belonging to investors and this money is an undisclosed investment in the Sahara account, then the law of the land says under section 68 of the Income Tax Act, this is to be kept as undisclosed investment of Sahara itself, and it is liable to tax. That's all that the Supreme Court could have done. That is all that the law would have entailed against him. I can understand tomorrow if Sahara were to face a Coffee-Posa detention or face action under the Money Laundering Act, then this kind of an order can be passed. This order can't be passed if there is a dispute simpliciter between SEBI and Sahara as to whether SEBI can regulate or not.
Okay, let Sucheta Dalal respond to that. You made your point. You made your point sufficiently. Let Sucheta Dalal respond that you are holding him guilty for something he hasn't yet been charged with under the law. Let Sucheta Dalal respond to that.
Let me just
one second, one by one. Yes, Sucheta Dalal.
This is a man who is sitting here and telling you the Supreme Court judges who the entire country is praising for a fantastic order don't know what they're saying. They've gone beyond the law. They don't know about investors. I mean, it is hilarious. If this is the kind of discussion we are going to have, there's no point, because this man doesn't know that no income tax, no DRI, nobody, even their annual reports are not available. I mean, I've been covering Sahara from '96. And the big mystery about Sahara every time is, even when I ask their PR agencies, can we have annual reports, balance sheets printed for every company that exists, we don't get answers. I mean, you must please, he's talking about a Supreme Court judgment, read the affidavits, read the documents. I've gone through piles of them, okay? And you will see that the entire 20,000 crore was going to be invested and decided by a partnership company which has these 4 people who are produced today. Can anything in this country be run like that? Can anything in headlines today run like that?
What Sucheta Dalal is saying is bang on. that if the questions that are being asked by the courts had been asked by the enforcement agencies, the income tax department, all the money laundering probe agencies, then the answers would have been established. But somehow Subrata Roy and Sahara have been able to circumvent the entire investigation process, which is why the courts are being forced to come in and do the job that others should have been doing. The questions that others should have been asking are being asked by the courts because no one else seems to be asking them.
Rahul, if there was a case either under the Money Laundering Act or because firstly to invoke those provisions are very stringent provisions, and those stringent provisions can't be invoked like this. Today, if a partnership firm, does the law of India prohibit a partnership firm doing business of 1,000 crores or a lakh crore or 10 lakh crore? It does not. Any partnership firm can do it. So please, when you deal with somebody, deal with him in accord. We live in a country of rule of law, and the rule of law does not prohibit a person from dealing business in this manner. And if he is doing business contrary to any law, then please catch him under that very law.
Your justification, and I'm also running out of time, Sucheta Dalal must counter, is that he was operating in a grey area where the laws are not clearly defined, there is no regulatory oversight. Maybe that's a lacuna in the law, but can you hold Subrata Roy Sahara guilty for that? Sucheta Dalal, concluding words, please.
Come on, Rahul. No law has applied to Subrata Roy. 75,000 crore was returned. RBI stood by pretending to be dumb. We sent letters to the RBI saying, what is this 75,000 crore? Where is it coming from? There were no answers. That money was rolled over onto these two companies. There were no questions asked. And even here, why was this man so confident? Because he was confident that he will roll it over to that Q shop. Look at these ads, okay? The Sahara logo is everywhere except in these ads. These talk about 75,000 crore. Nobody has asked a question. Nobody asked a question when this went into these two companies and 20,000 crore was raised. Nobody was asking questions until the Supreme Court put a stop to it in August 2012. Otherwise, it would have gone with all the Sachin Tendulkars and whatever they were doing the retail thing. The money would have gone there and it would have continued. For the first time, he's being questioned. And I think this country needs it. No, only I can't be accountable. Subrata Roy also has to be accountable.
Everyone needs to be accountable, and it is about time that these questions be asked and Subrata Roy be given a fair opportunity to answer the questions. Also time that the investigative agencies who for some reason have been looking away the longest while now pierce their gaze on the empire that's being run by Subrata Roy and understand and assess whether or not this is legal, and if it's not, come down hard on him. Just because he's rich, powerful and influential doesn't mean he can get away by operating outside the confines of our law. Vikas Singh and Sucheta Dalal for joining us with your thoughts on Centrestage tonight. Thank you very much.